1, 2, 3, clap. I hit the microphone by accident. That was very accidental. Everyone then was out of sync. It was not good at all. We all missed the clap. Hi, and welcome to Hey Buddy, Nice Podcast. Over there in Scotland, excited about a guest is Brogan Hastings.
And over there in Australia, excited about our guest also is Wayne Giovinazzi.
But more importantly, we're excited because it's episode number 100. That's right, we went from episode 85 to 100. That was quick, wasn't it?
This won't make sense when it actually posts.
No,
but
it makes sense. That's usually how my jokes go. But yeah, very special guest is... A lot of people thought that this person wasn't... Right, I say a lot of people. Some people think that this person isn't an actual real person. Mm. They do not believe in Matt Donnelly. But we do have the very real Matt Donnelly.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that ChatGPT and AI art have advanced to the point where you could finally have Matt Donnelly, quote unquote, on your pod. So it's good.
That's right. Good. There was the air quote fingers going on there.
Yeah.
The very real, definitely not AI generated Matt Donnelly.
Well, I'm so thrilled to be here because I there's not a podcast that defends my honor as much as this podcast does.
I believe that. Yeah.
I feel like I'm captain of your defense squad.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
number one Matt Donnelly apologist.
I feel like
Brogan is a lawyer.
I'm in a safe place here. I feel welcome.
But do you know why people don't think you're real?
I don't, because
it's just
when I encounter them, it pretty much dispels it right away.
Yeah. It's because we've got listeners who don't listen to ICS.
Right.
And
hello, new people.
We talk about you. We pump you up so much as being this golden god among men.
That's
and women.
Well, I guess we're gonna break a lot of myths today. Then I guess. So.
Yeah, we're breaking it down.
Nope. Meet your heroes.
I exist, and I'm a very flawed human being.
Nope. Matt Donnelly has done nothing wrong.
No. This is why we're here today, Matt. We decided that we need to discuss your flaws.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So a part of the process is self-identification. We're hoping that you're aware of some of your flaws.
Oh, sure. Yeah. We can start with those for sure.
Yeah.
This is getting uncomfortably close to pod therapy. I don't like it.
It is, yeah.
We can start with just like light ones like procrastinating and disorganization, maybe.
Yeah. Well, procrastinating. You said call you at episode 100. So
yeah,
it was put off for a whole year until we were able to have Paul Mattingly was on episode 5, I think, of Hey Buddy Nice Podcast.
He has no standards, but
no, yeah.
When I say call me at episode 100, it's because I don't think you'll make 100.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
It's just I think you'll only make 70 and quit. Because you must have found this, right? It is harder than you think. Not podcasting itself is not hard. The activity is not hard, but the actual maintaining a podcast is difficult.
Oh yeah, we would not be where we are now if it wasn't for the fact that Wayne promotes everything. I show up, I record, and that's it. Wayne does everything else.
It's Matt, I very much relate to you. I am well aware. I know very much what it's like to be second fiddle to a Paul Mattingly on a podcast. Because everybody loves Brogan.
Everybody loves Brogan. Oh, I love Brogan. Yeah.
I love you too, Matt.
Yeah.
It's the heavy lifting. And Brogan doesn't wake up like on vacation on a Wednesday night and go like, oh shit, I didn't upload the podcast. And have to wake up the family and be like, I'm just typing in a corner. Terrible episode summaries just to get it out there on time.
Brogan doesn't forget to.
Brogan
doesn't forget to be.
Sorry.
Okay, ready. You go.
Okay, I do get the live.
And Brogan does.
Stream.
Oh God.
I do get the live stream of Slaking telling me, "Is Matt up? Is Matt up? Is Matt up? Is Matt up? Oh, the episodes have dropped.
Yeah.
Let me know when it drops on Patreon." I do have a GIF of you that's like Matt Donnelly dancing away while the scoops go mad, waiting for the episode.
I know. I hate that feeling.
I know. I never post it anymore because I'm like, no, I don't want to make Matt feel bad.
Slaking does.
I can teach someone else to
crazy,
do it,
doesn't he? Yeah, I didn't think that you were posting it yourself. I thought maybe you.
I've always I've always posted the episodes, and I used to, when we had Libsyn, used to be able to easily do it from my phone. Because Libsyn just had an auto connect to Dropbox that was super convenient. This is what the listeners want to hear.
Wow. Yeah,
but
definitely.
then we joined Cast, and they had all their little uploading sites, and none of those sites were intuitive on the phone, where I could just immediately connect Dropbox. I have to download it and then upload it to their Windows. And so, other fascinating questions, give me a chat, RSS feed stuff. I'm all here for it. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's go.
Well, I have a question about, I don't know if you want to or allowed to, about Cast Media. Something's going on? I
can talk about it because I don't know anything.
Cool.
No, but I mean, yes, I think by the time this airs, it just came out. At the time of this recording, it just came out that basically Penn Jillette became a free agent in the podcast world. And in fact, if we didn't have a Patreon started for Penn Sunday School would probably be at least taking a break, if not done.
Yeah.
So I'm so lucky. Now, I just felt like this is the way I've seen every podcast network go. They always start off, they all say they're going to do great things. They all rely on the same advertisers. And then when the economy hits certain slumps, those advertisers go away. And then they go, oh, shoot, we owe a bunch of these podcasts a bunch of money and we can't pay them. So,
okay.
And so then basically we're kind of like, well, let's do that. And so, we hopped over to Cast because it's the same thing that happened with the previous media company. And then during the pandemic, I was like, wait a minute. I didn't understand how well the government was going to provide all these different services for different people. And so I thought everything's going to go away. And so I basically was like, we should start a Patreon because I thought Cast Media wouldn't make it through the pandemic. But it turns out, so many businesses took so many different stimulus programs and stuff like that, that the advertising was actually through the roof during all that stuff. So it was all for naught. But then it finally came around and I was like, oh, I already had this plan in place. I was already ready to rock this. And it's because
ahead, planning for the future.
And I'm not going to lie. So I guess, what we can talk about is that when all the Cast stuff was kind of hitting the rumor mills and the news and that kind of stuff, Penn sent an email being like, well, we got to think long and hard about how we're going to handle this podcast. And I literally had this grieving period for 24 hours because he put it out a Saturday. We're meeting on Penn Sunday School on Sunday, Yeah. And I literally spent the whole Saturday mourning the loss of it, Even we did, I do a family call on Sunday mornings. We kept that up since the pandemic. And I remember talking to my family about it. I think this might be the last Penn Sunday School I'm doing, And I was really sad. I was so sad about it. Because Penn is one of the most fascinating human beings on the planet. And also hilarious. And so to have a weekly appointment that I get to sit down and joke around with Penn is one of the coolest aspects of my life, And I've been fortunate enough to be part of I'm part of the Penn and Teller show from an advisory perspective and that kind of stuff. And so I would still be around him more. It wasn't when we first did when I first worked at the Discovery Channel TV show, I was around Penn and Teller in an intense environment, making all these episodes for the Discovery Channel. And then it was just over. And then I just wasn't around Penn at all, until the podcast came around. And so that was such a, and that's regular show business. I'm just being a open-hearted, sensitive guy, I guess. But you work when you work on a movie or you work on a project or whatever, you spend all these intense hours and then it's over, And so, I just was that's show business. But I personally just loved hanging out with Ben.
So it's not it's not a job. You're hanging out with your buddy. Having a good time chatting. Yeah.
And so
we don't get paid for our podcast really. Well, we do now with Patreon. Thank you, patrons. But that's what this is for us. It's just hanging out, having a chat with a cool person.
That's it. Yeah. And then that's what makes podcasting awesome. That's what makes listening to podcasts awesome is you just want to hang. You want to hang. You want a good hang in the car. You know, like I have certain sports podcasts I listen to where I was like, maybe I don't even want to meet them. You know, like maybe they might be like pricks in real life, but like the way they make fun of what's happening in the NBA or the NFL, like I just like that so much that I just like laughing in the car, you know? Yeah. I think like, and then we had the meeting was Penn was like, well, if we're not part of Cast Media, I liked when we did Penn Sunday School as one episode instead of two. And that was this big move. And like all the things I had laundry listed, like ready to like make the podcast survive. I arrived early to like talk to Ready Rich to make sure we were on the same page about it. Like I was like, I want to fight for this thing to live. And then Penn's like, what if we just do once a week? And I'm like, cool. Reddy's like, cool. And I was like, great. That was the meeting, you know? Like,
end of meeting.
I was like crying yesterday in the parking lot of a grocery store, you know? Like,
what was on the top of your list to save Penn Sunday School?
That we can take months off and that we don't, and that we can take time off and just have fun with the fact that we're taking time off, which was also true and also what we're doing. But that we could take time off and figure that out, that we could record on different days, you know, all kinds of different stuff, that we could do it for a small amount of time, you know. Yeah. Podcasts has changed a lot, you know. But then Ready Rich was like talking about like, it's not about the podcast listeners, it's about Penn. Like Penn likes, he likes patterns. So like the idea of like only doing it for a certain amount of time doesn't entice him at all. So but yeah, I think those are the two main things.
Okay.
Yeah, I like deep questions like why do you want a podcast, that kind of stuff.
Okay, I'm going to cut that out and I'm going to say, Matt, I've got a deep question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What drives you to podcasts, to be a podcaster?
You know, I don't know anymore. Except that
Moving on.
I am one. No, for Penn, it was a more fascinating question because he was a pundit when he started. You know, he was. They were still doing. They just finished bullshit. He was still going on air as a libertarian talking head on news shows and stuff. And we talked about current events. You know, and in fact, like the old prep for the Penn Sunday School was like, what rants or statements did he make about current events on his Facebook page that I can just remind him of Sunday morning? Yeah. You know, and since then, you know, becoming a vegan, more of a peaceful hippie, hating current events, hating talking about Trump, getting off of Facebook, you know, becoming much more private. And I was kind of like, he really doesn't need this like the way he used to, you know?
Yeah. Well, the David Segal episode was very much felt like a early years Sunday school.
Yes. Yeah. And for listeners, the New York Times of all the papers, the paper that we've read the most and defended as a good source of journalism, put out this bizarre, like publicist's wet dream article on Uri Geller, who most people thought of as a figure of the past. You know,
it was fucking bizarre.
It was bizarre. And Uri Geller trying to make himself sound contemporary because he spent all his money on a museum. And the article made it sound like that was altruistic. Like if I opened up if I opened up my house, it was like Matt's house is now open for business. People like, what a service he's done for the community.
That'd be $20.
Yeah, like it was bizarre, so bizarre. And so. Penn did an epic takedown of every aspect of the article.
Yeah.
I watched that live stream. I was like, oh my God.
And it's one of those things where, like, because like when he rants, it's like I was upset, but when he's upset, it's so much better, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many times where I come in where I'm like, maybe he'll be upset about this, and they'll go, you know what? I don't even want to talk about it, and I'm like, damn it. That means my points will have to be my own and not vetted through Penn.
No. Yeah.
He's such a better thinker, you know? You're like, I want him to go through it. And a lot of people really liked that episode. It felt like old school bullshit style Penn takedowns, and it was needed. It was a really, really weird article.
And so close to World's Greatest Con as well, where it was like, it made me wonder if that...
It felt like a direct response to it.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
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 So if you don't know what we're talking about at all, definitely go check out World's Greatest Con. It's a fantastic place. Season 3 is amazing. Great story. Fascinating story. and a great takedown on kind of great warts and all. What I love about it is a great warts and all. It's not one-sided. It's a real like, hey, everyone participate in this battle of skepticism versus trying to lie to the world, but everyone got dirty because of it. Everyone
was the asshole.
Yes. Yeah. And it's still a fascinating story, and that's why I loved about it so much. They did such a good job. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But why do I podcast, Wayne?
Yeah, that's what I asked. I think we're not here to talk about Penn. We're here to talk about what drives you. And actually, no, let's talk about Penn. So. No, because you did mention your first working with Penn and Teller project was Penn and Teller Tell a Lie on Discovery Channel.
Yes. Yeah.
And I believe that it was your wife who knew Penn before you. Is that correct?
No.
No,
but my wife does play a role in the story. I forget, what is the cursing level of this podcast? I forget.
Oh, you can say anything except for cunt.
Okay, great. So,
just checking. Do you remember what that word you're not allowed to say is?
Cunt.
Good.
Okay, good.
That's it. Cool.
All right, good.
Yeah.
No. So, like, basically, like, I was around Penn because of his wife, not my wife. But basically, I moved to town.
Yes, yeah.
And wherever his wife went to see a comedy show, I was in that comedy show. So she's like, "Who are you, and why have you popped up everywhere?"
Yeah.
And
why are you stalking me?
And she asked me to MC a poker tournament, charity poker tournament, where I would interview celebrities at poker tables and stuff. And so we just hit it off. And then her husband was in shows every night, and my wife was in shows every night. So we called ourselves show widows, and we went around to different things together all the time.
Yeah.
And she produced my first show here in town. She helped me pick out my engagement ring for my wife. Emily Jillette was an amazing force of nature in my world. But as always, when your wife loves something so much, you tend to not, right? So Penn did not like me when I first was around that. And I always said,
but he did also. Isn't Sarah was in the No God band?
Yes, that all came later. But yeah, Sarah's in the No God band.
Okay,
she sings
so
on
it's
the
fine
theme.
with your wife, but not with you.
Again,
at this stage,
just go ahead and make it analogous to anyone else. That's the way it would work. I always talked about, like, if my wife suddenly was like loved hanging out with a slam poetry person who is 20 years younger than me, and just did everything all the time with this slam poet, I would not be that slam poet. But if that slam poet brought around his girlfriend or wife and she was nice, I would probably hang out with her. So that's exactly what was happening in the world with Penn and I. But then I kept going to movie night at his house. Penn was at the one thing where he's just generous, where he would invite everybody over to his house. Anyone who heard about movie night could go to his house, eat popcorn, and you make fun of a movie or whatever. And so I slowly started to win him over by being a consistent movie night person.
Yep.
And then I heard about the Discovery Channel show, and I was like, I'm going to ask to intern on that show. And I was like, hey, the note is like, hey, I know. I've been, basically before we moved to Vegas, we were going to move to LA. In New York, I was trying desperately to work on TV shows. I haven't worked on a show like this, but I'm just desperate to get any kind of TV credit because I'm still going out to LA all the time. And so I would love to intern in any capacity. I'll pick you guys up. I'll get you coffee. I will do anything just to simply be around this show, totally free. And then I wrote, and I will blow you or Teller or whoever you point at. And my wife read the email and be like, before you send it, can I read it? And I said, sure. And she's like, why don't you take that last part out? Only because they might actually make you blow someone if you send it.
Okay, so it was just or anyone you point to part, right?
Yeah.
It was still Penn or Teller.
Yeah. That's still that's still on the table.
Yeah.
And so
under the table.
I got the internship, and I did exactly that. I drove around. Like they kept the first place we met didn't have Wi-Fi, so we couldn't share files with each other. Yeah. So after everyone left, I went up and down the road in between Teller and Penn's house to every single restaurant and got Wi-Fi of every single place that had Wi-Fi between Teller and Penn's house, and came home and emailed it out to everyone being like, hey, if we want to meet at any of these restaurants, I have the Wi-Fi password for this.
That is dedication.
Yeah. And so that worked. And then and so then they were happy with me being on the deal, the show. And then there's like little funny things. I remember learning like if you write some kind of physical activity that's bizarre, like getting in a dunk tank or a pond or whatever, that's for Teller, not Penn. Mm-hmm. Penn doesn't do that stuff. You don't do that. And then basically because I was funny, they let me start writing jokes. About 6 weeks in, Penn said, why don't we let Matt take passes on scripts? And then I got so nervous when that happened that I literally just shut my computer like as if it didn't happen. And I went to the gym and I just worked out and sweat for like an hour before I could even pretend to approach writing jokes for Penn and Teller on their scripts and passing it to them for them to read. But it went well. They kept a few of my jokes and then they hired me. So that's how it started. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. I don't think I'd heard that full story before.
Yeah, I don't always talk about the line about I'd blow you and then my wife deleted the email. I kind of don't add that
You've
part.
told it on Penn Sunday School because I remember hearing that and it's one of my favourite stories I think you've ever told. And I think when you were talking about getting an apprentice, or that guy asking you about being an apprentice, I typed up the email that you said with the exact same line asking to be your apprentice. I never actually sent it.
That's the biggest running joke about my magic shows is people coming up and asking to be my apprentice afterward. It's pretty great. By the way, I'm touring Foolers Live. Go to foolerslive.com. Check out my tour. That's why I came on here.
Mm-hmm. We love and support Matt Donnelly on this podcast. Go and love and support Matt Donnelly.
And even if you don't live in America, sign up, get the emails, and that way they can start seeing like, oh my gosh, all these people in the UK and other places in Australia, they're signing up. We should maybe go there. That's why I'm hoping will happen.
That would be good because I was talking to my mum the other day, and I said, "Oh, I'm speaking to Matt," and obviously with Mox coming over to Edinburgh, Mum said, "Is Matt coming over too?" And I went, no.
I'm so jealous. I want to go so badly. And I really got pumped up to go that one year. And then, what's his name from the Wrong Boys?
Yes. I genuinely can't watch any of the Wrong Boys stuff because I'm still pissed off about that.
Oh, don't be pissed off. Henry Lewis is a genius and he's a very good guy.
But still.
And, and if Magic Goes Wrong ever were to come to the States, then I would be a shoo-in to at least audition for Henry Lewis's part.
Exactly.
But I still want to go. I mean, the main reason actually isn't the Henry Lewis thing was a certainly a kick in the shins for sure. Mm-hmm. But it's that my kid's school. I live in Nevada, and for some reason, even though it's still 110 in August, that's when they start school. So right now, like my kids are still young enough that like me being around for the first week of school and stuff is pretty important. So they're gonna age, I think. They're gonna age. So I'm going to pull off Edinburgh in one of these years. I'm going to pull it off.
Yeah.
I'll get out there.
And then off the back of that, you've got the Perth Comedy Festival as well.
I got to go over to Perth. Got to get going on. If anybody knows how to sponsor these things, I'm definitely available to go. When is the Perth one? That probably doesn't interfere with my kid's school.
Right now, I couldn't tell you offhand, but I'll look it up and I'll let you know.
All right.
And look, if TV has taught me anything...
Melbourne Comedy Festival is the one that I've been trying to figure out.
Melbourne's probably the big one. That's the big one. Yeah. Perth is very small and not worth coming to. It was just self-serving for my...
If I could clean up on awards, it is worth going. If I could just...
okay.
If it's so small that I could get a lot of good press and awards, then it's worth doing.
But then again, the press in WA, it's, again, very small, not much. But you can use it. You can put on your website, winner of Best Magic Talent at Perth Comedy Festival.
You should see the pathetic things I put on now. So forget it. I think Perth would still be an upgrade compared to the accolades I scrape off of the internet and slap onto my website now. So
Best Comedy Podcast 2016, is it?
Exactly. I keep trying to leave the 2016 part off because it's just getting old.
Yeah.
You just need a sticker to cover that bit on the plaque.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Of the 2000s, I should try to find it. Just do that.
Yes. of the late 2010s.
Number one comedy podcast in our hearts.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So something new that is for Brogan and I is what we like to call our strange and privileged life, where we're just through doing art, basically, we've started to make connections with people, a lot of people in Vegas who we feel like probably shouldn't have had a right to even talk to on Twitter, let alone potentially call friends.
Right.
So my question to you is, you know a lot of celebrities, I guess, and people in showbiz.
Yeah.
Yep. Does it ever start to get less awkward for you as the outsider, I guess?
As the Penn and Teller Nepo baby.
As a, I'd say, like, you know, like, for instance, like a lot, you know, I spent a lot of time in New York, and a lot of the people I did stuff with, did shows with, and performed in the same theater as, a lot of them went on to do bigger and better things. And if anything, that question reminds me of, like, basically it was more, I'm embarrassed, you know, like I remember when I first moved to Vegas, I basically wrote every famous friend on a piece of paper as a pitch document for, like, if you give me an improv show, I'll get these people to all come out to Vegas for a weekend, and when a casino want to fly these people out and all this other stuff. And the casinos didn't really go that crazy for it. And then when I started asking my friends to do it, a lot of them were like, oh, maybe, or I don't know, or like they weren't just that interested in it. And then looking back at that time, I was kind of like, hey, we're friends and it's for this purpose, like, so we can help each other out, kind of thing. And I remember being very kind of angry and bitter, and even lost friends actually because of it, because I was so, like, I thought we were closer, or I thought they want to do it and that kind of stuff. And now I'm so embarrassed. Like, it's just when I run into my friends from that era who are still on TV or still, you know, whatever, employed in some higher rungs of entertainment, I just want to so badly get past the bullshitty barriers, you know, and be like, we can just talk now as present people, you know?
Yeah.
And I find, like, being a dad, and them, if they have children, like, that makes it, like, that happens fast, you know? Yeah. Even when, like, it was so awkward, I got brought backstage after I was in Wayne Brady's show at the Venetian, and then Wayne Brady packed up that show and left and went back to LA, and I was one of the many people laid off, and I was in this weird spot where he always has his comedy partner Jonathan, and still performs with Jonathan before and still performs with Jonathan now. I was just this weird experimental thing that happened where, like, everyone else was either a dancer or a musician. I was the only, like, guy who shared the stage with Wayne and Jonathan as an improviser. Yeah. And then he basically was like, and that's done forever, you know? And then, you know, he's come to town. I don't know whether I should reach out, try to stay in touch. And again, I'm trying to not do what I just described, right? And so we go backstage, and at the time I was working on the Penn and Teller TV show. So I was basically just trying to be like, hey, I've already moved on to other things that are paying me. So this isn't like, you know, I don't need anything from you, kind of thing. And he was trying to just gonna be pleasant or whatever. But then we both started talking about our kids, and then boom, like the barrier fell, and then Wayne and I just talked to each other, dad to dad, and it was so no bullshit. It was so nice, so much so that, like, because Penn's wife Emily is still in touch with him, and so he'll still come to town, do shows. And Emma's like, Wayne's in town, should we go? And I'm like, no, I had closure. You know, like, I don't think that's a relationship that will ever heat back up. I think it was an experiment that cooled. I get it. You know, I work with Penn and Teller now. I know what it's like to hit it off with people, and that's not how I felt there at that show. I didn't feel like we were hitting it off, and I was destined to be part of this, make that duo into a trio. Let's roll. You know. Yeah. And so. We got that closure, and that was nice. So I think it's so important now. What I didn't understand, when you really are trying to just get into any kind of element of show business, you think that someone's made it, and therefore they can immediately, like, extend their wings and bring other people under and help and that kind of stuff. And you don't realize is that everybody's still always desperate and thinks it can all fall apart at any moment. and everyone thinks that it can be over in a second, and everyone is still being screwed over on one deal or one gig or was going to do something super big that fell apart, and so you just realize that it's still, no matter how much money you're making, show business is always just an insecure mess, and so you basically have learned, when I run into my friends who are maybe more notorious or whatever, just to leave them be. If they want to talk, great. If they don't want to talk, fine. It's okay. And I don't think I'm going to end up with any kind of pursuit where we're going to have to cross paths anymore. And that's okay. And that's really what's been the coolest part about turning to podcasting and magic, is that you don't need fame to make some money at it. Fame can help, but in comedy you have to be famous or attached to something with fame to make money, to make living money. It's very hard to scrape it out as a headliner no one's heard of. That's not going to last very long. And doing, open and mids for people doesn't pay. And then there's such a fraternal hierarchy to comedy clubs and everything else. So your only other choice is to try to write. And if you're going to write, you got to write for somebody who's got something going on. Otherwise, you're writing for so then you get into the magic of variety arts. There are plenty of places where you can do magic and make a little bit of money.
And you've just wrapped up a tour.
Yeah, I just did. I just went to 7 cities of 7 things. Like the most I played to was 250. I played to one venue that was 28 people, quote unquote, sold out. It's this little side of the road station where they turned this catering room in a restaurant into a magic theater. And I played it, and it was super fun. And that paid a lot better than a lot of improv shows I've done. And I always say, you're not going to go to some fake antique store and find a key and open the door and there's a stand-up comedian waiting for you to do a private show, that doesn't feel like a business model, but that does work with magic, Or if you're at a good cocktail event, I'm not going to go table to table being like, anyone want to hear a joke? Anybody want to hear a joke? But if I go around shuffling cards, I can do that. There's just, the variety arts are so different than the mainstream arts that way. Yeah. And as I'm getting older, that's so much more comforting than the idea of trying to somewhat make it or be famous. It feels more in balance with me just trying to keep my family on the level, and that kind of stuff. And my son will always be like, "You're famous," when I talk about these things, and I'm always like, "Hey, when we're out to dinner, has anyone ever interrupted our dinner to talk to me or take a picture with me?" And he goes, "No," and I go, "Then I'm not famous," because that's all that. Because when you're older, that's the only thing that fame means. Fame means is having your dinners interrupted while you're talking.
Notes, next time in Vegas, interrupt Matt's dinner.
Exactly,
only with my son. If it's not with my son, it doesn't count.
Only with son.
Only with my son.
Do you consider podcasting almost in the same lane as variety arts?
I do because people will be turned onto a podcast without fame. And in fact, even the celebrity guest thing is something that we really tried to do early in the ice cream social days, and boy, did people not care. And they just want us to joke around. So that became our standard, and that continues to be our standard. We're as long as they can joke around, as long as they can bust balls. So even I'm vetting someone, the other day I was out east back in Maryland, and my brother took us out on his boat on the Chesapeake Bay. It's beautiful. He pulled into town, and we met this guy who runs a small business, but he was a good talker, right? Mm-hmm. And he's also this alternative health guy. He's a cave, he believed in caveman stuff and using cave tools and all this other crazy stuff. He has this book called Eat Like a Human was his thing, and it's all kinds of crazy stuff where he believes you should ferment all of your own vegetables in your own jars and stuff, all this crazy stuff. But fair enough, he said the potato chips. Yeah, exactly. The potato chips you're eating, we're these are the most delicious, light and fluffy potato chips I've ever had. He goes, those are fermented potatoes we used, and we cooked them in tallow or whatever. But I just said, why ferment potatoes? And he sat down and started telling me the most engaging thing about the history of potatoes and the chemical compounds, whatever. Yeah. But then I start busting his balls a little bit while he's talking, and he just rolls with it and he laughs. And then I go are you ever in Vegas? Because I was great. You're an awesome storyteller. Yeah. You're passionate. Fantastic. Can you take busting balls? Great. Okay, great. Then yes, let's get you in the studio. And no one will have ever heard of you or whatever. Some people might have saw his National Geographic show. Great. But for the most part, I just want, if someone can tell compelling stories and fuck around, like that's all our listeners want, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like when you talk about like why be a podcaster is because I provide a service. It's a service industry, and people, and you are eliminating boredom and loneliness. And at times where people would feel that way. So whether they're in their car, at the gym, walking their dog, washing dishes, that kind of stuff, like that's where you're spending time with people. And I think it's such a value. I think it's so valuable. I think it's like crazy valuable. I think it's so much more valuable than the time you spend watching Netflix or sitting down and watch TV, where you're like, I'm going to do this thing. But when you catch them in their casual periods and can provide some conversation and fun for them, I think that's incredible. And I did not understand that when I got into it, but I did start to understand it as we got into it. And that to me is so cool, you know? And so like I just did this little magic tour, and yes, a ton of podcast listeners came out to these shows, you know? And all of them like come up and they're like, and the look on their face is like, hey, you know me, we know each other. And I have seen them, you know, some people I had seen more than once or whatever, but the look on their face is not one of like, hey, I saw you a couple times at a show, or I saw you, or I've been to Scoop Fest once. It was like, hey, Matt, like,
you're my friend.
Hey, buddy. How are you? You know?
Yeah.
And I don't want to crush that. I don't want to spoil that, because it is true. Like everything on their end would pass an affidavit, right? They'd be like, oh, you know Matt? And they could ask them a ton of questions. They would get all those questions right, you know?
Yeah.
And they would know all the stories and stuff like that. And so even like talking about tricks on, you know, my Abracadabra podcast, people are like, oh, I heard about these tricks. They're so cool to see them, you know, like, and like that's the power of doing what I'm doing. It's exciting. It's what I want. So I think it is powerful to be in that space with people. And I don't want to take it for granted or think that it's not, or think that's not great because I'm not famous. I don't want to score myself that way. So I enjoy being able to spend time with my children, live in my house, enjoy my privilege by being a moderately successful podcaster and a moderately successful magician.
Yeah. It is strange because you talk about providing the service for listeners, and me and Brogan only start off as listeners to podcasts.
But I did too.
And it is that same experience where it's like, it's the casual time that you're listening to when you might have been alone or something else, and it's something there for you to listen to. But it almost sort of doesn't necessarily click at that time as a listener. But now that we're doing our own podcast and seeing people react to that and say, hey, it's good to listen to you two having a chat while I'm doing nothing, basically. Yeah. It's very weird. It's similar with my comics sometimes. Like sometimes I think I'm kind of bored of drawing comics, but then I think there's been more than one occasion where someone has left a comment on a comic saying, oh, I was having a shitty day today, and then I read your comic and it made me laugh, and it's a little bit better. So so I'm glad that you said yes, you do see podcasts sort of on the same level as like variety arts, because it is a service and it is a form of art still, really.
Yeah. And to get sentimental, I mean, podcasts change lives. Certainly changed my life for the better. I wouldn't be here doing what I do. It was very likely I might have ended up a recluse, I'll be honest. But then I went to Vegas for Scoop Fest, and my mum's like, yeah, I don't worry about you anymore. Your friends are real.
Oh, that's really amazing. That's so sweet. No, like,
but then again, go ahead. At Scoop Fest 2020, what was the last Scoop Fest? 2022? 21, whatever it was. Our first Scoop Fest. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't the first time I'd met
It was 2016 and we just crossed the letters out.
Yeah. So it wasn't the first time I'd met you, but it was still the first Scoop event I'd been to. And with Brogan, sort of still very much a stranger to me, we were both kind of having the same reaction on the level of when we were hanging out at McMullen's, and it's like, holy shit, we're like sitting with Matt Donnelly right now, having conversation.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, very much getting that.
Having a drink with Matt Donnelly and Irish Jazz, what a rare, kitschy.
Yeah.
That's genuinely what we were like. It's like, this seat is safe for Matt Donnelly. Oh my God, it's Matt Donnelly.
We were making plans on how to get Matt to stay at our table. Like one night, Brogan was like, "I'm gonna have a drink ready for him right there," and I was like,
"That's a good
make sure
start.
it's
works.
neat." Not on the rocks, because we don't know when he's arriving. The ice might melt and weaken the drink. He might not like that. We can go get a glass of ice, and if he wants it on the rocks, that's perfect.
We'll get Irish nachos. It'll be great.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, my standards for both food and drinks are much lower than what you guys are describing.
Noted, but now I feel like it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but no,
true.
it's also very
You're
much. For me, it was. It took a little while for me to get over. I'm shooting the shit. I just made Matt laugh at something that I said.
I relate. Even when I was co-hosting Penn Sunday School in the early days, and certainly at movie night when I went from being ignored to embraced comedically, I would bring up Penn's stories all the time. Like, Penn would tell stories and I would just be telling them all week, because it was the most, it was fascinating in my head kind of thing. And someone said, like, "Oh, you really hang out with him, huh?" And I was like, "I do." And like, "You guys are becoming friends." I go, "No, friends don't remember the exact times they've made their other friend laugh and like have like a mental slot." Like the first 10 times I made Penn laugh, I was like, it was this joke this time about this thing. I was very much cognizant of it, so I understand that feeling. But I'm glad to also get to a much more casual space with you, as that is ridiculous for me to have that space. But no, I mean, that's like for example, like this Christmas, I finally asked for a Bluetooth speaker. And it was a move that can carry my book bag when I travel and also when I'm home, because I realized downtime, I don't want to flip TV anymore. If the house is empty, I'll play a podcast instead of put on TV. And specifically, like my wife, she works in a circus and she is out at night. So I have to do dishes all the time. And I hate doing dishes so much. If I do dishes for up to 5 minutes, I can do it. If it takes 5 minutes and 2 seconds, I am irate. I just hate doing dishes for a long time. But I got
is this by hand or loading a dishwasher?
I do it by tongue. I'm like a dog.
Oh, okay, yeah. That makes sense. Scrubbing it off before I put it in the dishwasher. Maybe I over scrub. Yeah. I basically do make them completely clean and put them in the dishwasher for redundancy purposes. Yeah. Which I guess is good for the environment. Probably not. But I pulled out the Bluetooth speaker, started playing podcasts while doing dishes, and it was like, oh, this is great. I'm just gonna do that. I could do dishes for hours listening to this.
20 minutes,
3 tones of yeah. Okay.
But yeah. And I run into that where I'll listen to Justin Robert Young's political podcast, and while I'm doing dishes, I almost go to text him. And I was like, "Oh, I can't do that thing," because friends who listen to my pods just text me with no context. Just text me I was like, "Whatever happened to that baby?" And you're like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I don't know what's going on.
That is why I have to watch the Penn Sunday School live stream so I can text you in context.
It's true. You do tend to do that, and I do. Get it there that way. But yeah. And now you never found that toaster, right?
I'm still looking. I do have alerts on my phone looking for this fucking toaster.
What did you lose a toaster, Brogan? How do you misplace a toaster?
Penn is looking for the toaster that the Beatles had.
The Beatles toaster.
This is another donkey hat situation.
It is another donkey hat situation. And again, your listeners don't know about it. We gave context by giving them less context. Penn used to have a donkey hat. He described it. People tried to track it down. No one ever found the right hat. That hat is gone. This toaster the Beatles used, of course, it's from the 60s. It's likely all just gone. But
do you want to know how far I got? I actually emailed Murphy Richards.
Did you really?
Directly. I did. And I said, "Hi, I'm looking for a thing for a friend of mine. I would like to know what model of toasters y'all produced in the 60s, specifically the one used by the Beatles, if you can tell me that." And they said, "Our record's all burned in 2007. We don't have that record." So they would have told me if they had it. They genuinely, even Morphy and Richards don't know.
No, that's what they want you to think. They're hiding these records from the public. They don't want anyone to know. Secret toaster.
Secretly, there's Beatles toast parties happening among the elites, left and right. You know, a bunch of knighted people
annoying.
Getting together their jams.
I know. I keep looking at like charity shops and vintage shops.
If you wrote down the specs, because that episode you can't find anymore. That episode is gone.
Is it really?
Oh, was there a broken NDA or something? Was there?
Well, that's the thing is like of all the jokes, like we joke all the time when Penn is breaking NDAs on Penn Sunday School, but that one he didn't sign an NDA. He just took a private tour with someone who had a lot of knowledge of events that were happening with the Beatles, and so that episode went out, and all of a sudden we just weren't allowed to be talking about the stuff we were talking about.
Oh no!
That's the episode he talks about hanging out with me. What do you mean that doesn't exist?
What?
Fuck.
Really?
I am actually gutted to hear that.
Sorry.
No!
It won't be gone forever, because in that podcast it is basically describing an upcoming event. And I think once that event takes place, then I think that episode can go back up.
Okay. That I don't feel as bad about it now.
Yeah.
Because
I was wondering why I hadn't heard anything about Brogan's adventures with Penn.
Yeah,
it was all in there.
For the 2 seconds that he talked about. Because like you, Matt, I remember I didn't even make Penn laugh. I made him chuckle. And I was like, oh.
Write it down in the journal.
Exactly. Yeah. I bought Penn a donut. My life is made.
Yep. Brogan messaged me at one point saying something along the lines of, "Holy shit, I'm sitting in the back of an Uber with Penn Jillette right now." And then you proceeded to like lose your AirPod in the Uber.
Well, not only that, my AirPods, I now only have one.
Oh, the amount of times the amount of times I fly all the time now, and the amount of times I see AirPods just flying across the aisles and behind people's seats and stuff. Those I'm a big headphone wearing traveler. I don't do.
Oh yeah, always cans.
I now have cans only. The AirPods are now for work only.
Are you gonna go to the Fringe, Brogan?
Of course, I have tickets for the first night. I am taking my mum and dad to the second night. I am taking my work friends to the week after, and I have tickets for the last night, only for Moxie.
Are there other shows you're looking forward to seeing?
I'll probably go see a couple other shows, because I know that Colin Cloud's playing as well. I've never seen Colin Cloud, so that'll be good.
He's psyched about that show.
And I'm excited to see him because he is a good Scottish boy. So that's awesome. And Mario the Maker Magician has a show out this way.
Mario's there.
And there should be some good comedians as well. I'm always sad now because I remember before I got into the whole magic thing, the way I used to walk to work at my old job, there was this big pillar and it had a big Piff posted on it when Piff was doing the Fringe. And I was like, who is this guy? And I vividly remember it, and I was like fascinated just with this poster. Never went to see him. Then got into magic, and now Piff doesn't come to Edinburgh anymore. And I'm like,
no. So he'll come back eventually, but it was he basically like he said, like basically the English don't get as excited to see him as the Americans do. That's basically the way that goes.
Piff, buddy, Edinburgh's in Scotland. The Scottish will love you. Come back. We have penguin biscuits.
Oh man, I have my friend Chris Grace is doing a show out there, one person show where he plays Scarlett Johansson playing him in a one person show. He's a homosexual gay Asian comedian. I said homosexual gay, didn't I? There you go.
Yeah, that's
double gay.
That's how gay he is. Squared. And then, do you guys know my friends Rebecca going out with her comedy partner doing a 2-person show with like a false motivation thing? But do you guys know Kate Nash, the musician Kate Nash?
Yeah. She's
producing that show, so you should go see that show. Yeah.
Oh.
And whose show is this?
I'm looking up the name right now. It's just fun of their Kickstarter for them to go. I did solely. I solely funded it with my $50. I solely.
See, I was going to cut this part out just for when they listen and realize that you don't remember their name, but because you said you funded their entire show, I'll leave it in.
It's called The Retreat. The Retreat. Yeah, Rebecca and Ann. Yeah,
Rebecca and Ann.
It's a false business. It's a comedy show kind of based on them being business motivators.
Ooh,
okay,
that sounds good.
Yeah,
I like stuff like that. I like when it shows that other people recommend.
Yeah,
you know, it's to see friends of friends.
Yeah, a little vote.
Is all. Yeah,
little vote.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're playing Perth or not, Wayne. So
no, I'll
find out. I'll find out.
Nobody gives a shit about Perth. Perth, Edinburgh's where's that?
I live in Perth and I don't give a shit about Perth. This would be our unscheduled, unannounced ad break portion of the show where we pimp out
just anyone's shows,
things that they're doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think Ozzy Wynn's shows are running in New York. No, I'm just joking. I'm trying to. That's random.
He's not coming to Scoopfest. We don't care about him.
Yeah, exactly.
You should get Mox for Scoopfest.
I will. I'm very curious how Mox is going to feel about performing after Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Edinburgh.
You and Penn are allowed to pronounce it wrong because I love you both.
Thank you. It's all Ready Rich gets emails about.
I know. Tell them you have permission from a Scot.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, because the one show I did there, when it was over, we were like burnt out. Like we were kind of like, let's not do that show for a little while.
That was the Neutrino video project,
Neutrino video where we did instant movies with people. Yeah,
that's a pretty high intensity show to be doing.
It
for that amount of time.
It is. And then we also, because it took, we were an 8-person group and it takes 13 people to run the show. And so we always were easily recruiting friends in New York to do it. Or, you know, when we traveled, getting other improv people to do it. But then we were in Edinburgh. We were trying to find other friends who are doing shows that wanted to do it. And they would want, and we were doing, you know, we're doing 29 shows in 30 days. So even our friends who are doing other shows were like, well, I don't want to do your whole show. Like, I'll do it for a couple nights or I'll do it for, so we were always just recruiting left and right. One show I shot and edited myself. Like I filmed myself and did it like handheld doc style as one of the, we always had 3 branches. So one of the 3 branches was just me shooting and editing myself. Not my strongest work, not my best work. And then it was over. We're like, oh, we went back to New York and we're like, why do this again? Why bother?
Yeah.
You know, but but you're right. It was technically intensive, so I don't think Mox will feel the same way when they're done with their run. I would love if they were up for performing at Scoopfest, so of course I will invite them.
It would be amazing.
I have hinted. When we were in London, I hinted to Mox. I was like, you should maybe talk to Matt about Scoopfest, maybe, possibly. I'm just pimping Mox out to everybody. I've said to Jobeth, get Mox.
I plan on riding Mox's coattails, so I gave him his first show in Vegas.
You did.
And I plan on just riding that out. So that's my retirement plan. Is that Penn and Teller can't live forever, but Mox will outlive me.
Don't say that.
Mox will outlive me.
Mox will live longer than you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have to go to the next generation.
Yeah.
Of coattails to ride.
So that's kind of our plan as well. But then we realized that you were removing the 2016 from the podcast award, and we thought you were more relevant.
That's true. Yeah. You've been conned, my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, I sometimes feel like you're an Apple baby.
The world's greatest con. They claim to be Las Vegas comedy podcast #1.
You don't do a terrible.
But it was
Brushwood.
only 2016.
That's a moderately good Brian Brushwood you're doing right now.
Yeah, that's the first time I've tried to pull it out.
I like it. Yeah. That's pretty impressive.
It's almost as good as your Nick Tanchman.
No. What's your Nick?
Oh, God. Nick's a listener. I feel bad for doing my Nick Tanchman.
It's done with love, Nick.
Yeah. No, I'm not doing it.
You're not doing it. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah. What were we talking about? Riding coattails. That's it.
I mean, I'm Matt Donnelly's Nepo baby. I feel like because everything I have is thanks to you because you just keep saying, "Here's the thing." Like, thanks.
But you do it though, and fast. That's what's great.
I did do it fast.
Most artists are not known for their turnaround time.
That's my one selling point.
It's not your one, but it's your top. It's in the top reasons. So I appreciate it. And the logo you did a Matt Donnelly My Noodler neon logo on black.
Yes. Yes, for your tour.
People love that.
Really?
Yeah.
That was completely a test.
I ran it as my background in my in shows where they wanted a projection. I ran it as my background on this last tour.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I know that Joby used it for the t-shirt, and I was really happy with it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're getting more use out of it, because I like how that came out.
I was going to say, I thought I saw it as a t-shirt, and I want it.
It is it has our little tour. Jobeth. It's an Elkton Magic outfit, that t-shirt.
Yeah.
That's good.
How are we doing? All right. I started my timer late, which is
tradition. We can wrap up if you want. You might be out of curiosities about me. You could be done with me.
Matt,
it's true.
You are stuck here until you say I have to leave.
We're here until you need to go, basically. It's 5 a.m. in the morning.
There are listeners who don't know me. Hello. But for you guys, for you to get any new information out of me is pretty tough. You kind of know everything about me.
All right. I was having a chat with a friend because I've been having a rough time mental health wise recently for the last couple of months. Very much had a breakdown doing a project for PIF. Which and since. And it got me thinking. Talking with my friend, I was telling them about how you put a lot of effort and money into a project, which didn't turn out the way you hoped it to go, and you ended up moving to the Virgin Islands for like a year or something.
Yes, I thought you were talking about you still, and I was like, wait, what?
No,
this is my story.
This is about you. Yeah, so with that, how long did it take you to decide that's what you're going to do?
It was just, I was very depressed, and like that was a tough time. So I used, I guess the quick version is like my mom died at Disney World when I was 5, and then they gave us money for college as like a settlement for like a wrongful death deal. And so therefore I thought that money would be magical because it was infused with my what the world owed me from taking over my mom.
Yeah.
And I used it to make a TV pilot, an improv TV pilot, and that pilot failed. Because turns out people want television shows to be good. And so I was dropped out of college and I was working at home in my hometown. And I was a depressed insomniac, as a matter of fact. And so I kept coming to work late, and people thought I was late because I was hungover. And that to me felt more functional than admitting that I wasn't drinking. I just was depressed and staying up late and just looked like someone who drank all the time. And, it was a ball-busting giant restaurant, and my role in it was not a waiter or anything. It was I helped run the humidor. It was during the smoking craze of the 90s. So we had this giant walk-in humidor, and I managed the humidor at Ash's Cigar Club. And so as a punishment, they would make me run and get everybody breakfast and for the morning crew. So if I walked in late, they would just hand me the company card and be like, go. So take everyone's breakfast order and go get it.
Yeah.
And so I was getting these breakfast sandwiches from this bakery a few blocks away from the restaurant. And the guy who was working there goes, "Are you going back to Ash's?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, tell Doug, Tim from Skinny Legs says hi." I said, "What are those words?" It was like, "Tell Doug," it was a cook, "that Tim from Skinny Legs says hi." And I went back and I was like, giving everybody's breakfast out. And I was like, "Hey, Tim says hi from Skinny Legs," and he goes, "Is he back in town?" And I go like, "Yeah, well, what's Skinny Legs?" And he goes, "Skinny Legs is my dad's bar in the Virgin Islands." And I heard bar in the Virgin Islands, and my brain was like, "Oh." no. I was like, what? I was like, go away. Like, if you find my 8th grade yearbook, and please don't, like, I guess because like Cocktail and Tom Cruise made bartending look so super cool. And so in my 8th grade yearbook it says like what future plans is, like I want to move to Key West and bartend with Mike. And Mike was my best friend, and Mike wrote the same thing in his, and we didn't know Key West was known as a good gay hotspot, so people wondered whether Mike and I were planning to get married. But I was like, oh my gosh, that's a weird thing. But I've had this like thing from when I was a kid. That'd be really cool to bartend on an island, you know? And so I was like, your dad owns a bar in the Virgin Islands. And he goes, yeah. And I go, could I work there? And I just said it like right away. And he was like, I mean, if you move there during season, I could put a word for you. Yeah, I'm sure you can work there or whatever. And I was like, I think I want to. And he was like, okay. And I go, seriously, like, can you like give me the weekend? But can I tell you on Monday whether I want to do this or not? And he was like, yeah, sure. And I spent the whole weekend talking to my family, talking to my comedy group about whatever, being like, I think I want to get the fuck out of here and move to an island and be done with it. And I just thought, like, at the time, it wasn't like me being in a bad place was a mystery. Both of my older brothers tried to get me hired in their different fields. One wanted me to move down with him in Maryland and just live with him until I got on my feet. My other brother got me an interview, and I failed the personality test thing. Like I aced the interviews, and they were like ready to hire me and start Monday. And they were like, just take this personality test. It's a formality. And I failed. I fit the personality of someone who would quit after 3 months or whatever. Which, by the way, I think that
it was a good personality test. It was a good
personality test. It was an accurate personality test.
Yeah.
And so I basically was like, I don't want anyone to feel bad for me, but I need to go away. Like I need to go somewhere and work some shit out. And so I told everyone I was going to do it, and everyone's like, that sounds crazy, but if you want to do it, do it. And it also proves like what a low point it was, because everyone's like, sure. Shake it up, dude. See you later. Yeah. And so I did. I came back. I was like, I want to do this. I still have the piece of paper somewhere, but he told me everything he knew about St. John, and I wrote it all on this little piece of paper that I had folded up in my pocket. And I bought a one-way ticket for like 3 weeks from then, and I packed up all my shit, and my buddy Steve came with me. He said yes, and he came with me. And so, I moved down to the Virgin Islands. By the way, never got hired at Skinny Legs.
Oh, really?
Yes, I moved down there in September. And the funny thing about it was, like, I'm from the Jersey Shore, New Jersey. And so when it's not season, there's still restaurants open and people still live there, and it's still a milling place. Turns out in St. John, largely, like, tourist season is tourist season. And so when I went there, Skinny Legs was closed. Like, I just packed up and moved. And it was not a lot was open. Plenty of places weren't open. The one place that was open was Maho Bay Campground, and it was still off season. So what they had was called a 4-hour work program, where if you can live on the resort as long as you work for 4 hours a day, helping to maintain the resort. And it was an eco resort. They recycled their glass, they recycled all kinds of stuff, and they had rainwater collection. It was like this whole eco resort thing. And so we heard about it, and so we showed up. They were like, hey, can we live here and work here until we figure out what's going on? And they're like, well, this program is a thing that people apply to like months and years in advance, because they are passionate environmental people who want to help change the world with ecological structures. And I was like, right, but can we work here or no? Kind of thing. And I remember they're like, well, if you stay here you can certainly check in. We have tents available, eco tents available for for a night stay, and we can interview you and we can work it out from there. And so I put down a credit card that was absolutely not valid. This was a maxed out credit card from all my debt that I was like, sure. And they're running it in their little carbon paper thing to put it down as a deposit.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I turned to Steve, was like, we have to get hired because that credit card will not go through.
Yeah.
And so we charmed them, whatever. And the big thing was that we were taking a tour or whatever, and they brought us by the clock-in area, employee area. And we saw a talent show sign up, and we said, "Oh, you guys have talent shows here?" And I said, "Yeah." I go, "We do a 2-person improv show. We'll do a show for you guys." And they're like, "Oh, great!" And we signed up, and the talent show was before our checkout date. So my buddy Steve and I put on the freaking show of a lifetime. We crushed it. And the audience went wild and the staff went wild. And we said to the guy who was running the program, we said, if you guys hire us on staff, we could do this for you every week.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh my gosh. And because of our comedy show, they hired us. And then they never ran that credit card. And so we got out of that. And then that's it. I worked at Maho Bay Camps as a housekeeper. And my buddy worked, Steve, in the maintenance department. And I bartended 2 times a week for extra money at Margarita Phil's. Not Margaritaville's. Margarita Space Phil's, like right out of The Simpsons. I worked for Phil Hoffman. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is when my breakdown happens fully, the only reason why I can't follow in your footsteps is because basically Apple Pay and Tap and Pay exists now instead of carbon credit cards.
Very hard to con people in the modern times with the old money. Right. Yeah, for sure.
Well, there goes that plan.
Yeah.
What I took away from that story was find a friend who has a dad who has a bar in Vegas.
Yes.
Then ask if I can work there.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not many bars in Vegas. You might struggle. Now, I don't think I ever got closure on this part of the story either. I think this was while you were still in the Virgin Islands. An attempt to grow magic mushrooms on a log in a bathtub.
Oh, good call. No, not a log. So my roommate had like a doctorate from like a really out there university where it was like psychedelics and psychedelic studies and things like that. He knew all of the chemical properties and what worked for what and all these weird studies that people had done with psychedelics. And in the British Virgin Islands, mushrooms, just like I believe in England, mushrooms are not illegal. Psychedelic mushrooms are not illegal. As long as they're wet and they have a little bag that says for scientific purposes on them or whatever.
Yeah.
But in the British Virgin Islands, not illegal. So they grew there. And so not me, but my roommate canoed or allegedly kayaked. He dumped a bunch of the psilocybin-filled cow shit into a garbage bag, loaded onto his kayak. Couldn't have been a pleasant journey. Kayaked it back to our campground, and we actually we actually gave these little eco huts that everyone just built little things onto. So we gave up our shower.
Yeah.
Because there was a staff shower section. Picture like MASH, And so we gave up our private shower to grow mushrooms. So we took up the floor and put the cow shit down, and he would cook all these nutrients off into yeast to get it going, and he would pack it and turn it into cow shit soil and grew mushrooms. I did none of the heavy lifting. I just did the consuming of mushrooms.
But it actually worked.
It did.
Doing it in the shower.
Yeah, we grew it. Yeah, that's the thing. We had a shower, so we could water it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
There we go. That's another one for the pros column. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. There we go.
So, we grew our own magic mushrooms in our bathroom. That part is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was never sure if it actually worked or not, or if multiple trips had to be
They weren't as strong as stateside mushrooms that people brought in for their vacations and stuff. Yeah. But it was still fun. It did the job.
Yeah.
Diet mushrooms.
Diet mushrooms. Mushrooms light.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mushrooms max.
Now at half the tripping qualities.
Yeah.
Double the effort, half the tripping qualities.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah.
You don't put that on the package as well for scientific purposes.
For scientific purposes, it's a waste of time.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite project that you've ever worked on? Do you have one that stands out in your mind that you're like, that was the time for me that I enjoyed the most doing something creative?
I've done so many things that were like artistically successful but never financially successful, right? Like we did after that produce like a movie. I really had fun making a movie. I've done a couple of movies. I've done a decent amount of like independent films of playing small parts and large parts where I really enjoyed. I do miss being an actor. I did enjoy acting. But the Neutrino video projects is probably the biggest, coolest thing I was a part of. And it's only because it was born out of this weird necessity, and I was the butterfly that flapped its wings on it. I didn't do any of the heavy lifting theme of everything we're talking about, right? But there was this cage match thing. There's this cage match show in New York where different teams would take each other on, different improv teams would take each other on. The audience would vote for it. And Neutrino was a group that existed before I joined it. I was added to that group. And they were notorious for doing crazy shit because you were allowed one timeout during it. And so they would do crazy shit in their timeouts, like shave someone's head, or whatever they'd call timeout and play a song from their latest album and say they're not improv people, they're musicians, and they put out songs and stuff. And so they did all these crazy things, and then I joined, and they didn't. We were just doing cage matches like every other team. We were just trying to do good shows, and we never won because they would come and they'd watch us, and another team would, and it was just about, it's just about who brings more votes or whatever. And so it was one rehearsal. I just said, you guys have a rep for being crazy and outlandish in cage matches. It's like how I knew of this group. And when I was told I was joining this group and being added to this group, I was excited. I know it's been a minute, but like, can we do something fun for cage match instead of doing this, whatever. And we're coming up with all these kind of ideas, and all of them were a little crazy and nothing was confirmed. But then we thought about trying to do like a movie, like the idea of doing a movie outside the theater that people watching inside the theater instantly was so exciting to us. And at the time, this is the 90s, so the technology wasn't like in our pockets like it is now. Yeah. And so my buddy Bob worked for the news, local news. And so we're like, can we borrow or quote unquote borrow a news van? Can we actually like broadcast to a signal that would, whatever? And we were like researching all this stuff, and it was my buddy Ptolemy, he's in the latest Barbie movie, and he's in a bunch of TV shows and stuff. He's done well for himself. He was the one who realized that, like, wait a minute, if we all go out and shoot 3 minutes outside of the theater and run our tapes back in at the same time, 9 minutes runs on the screen, and therefore we have 6 minutes to plan the next thing before it has to be in the theater. And at first we were like, what? And he literally had to break out like a color-coded thing where he was like 3 little 3-minute increments equal 9 minutes on the screen. And we're like, and as soon as like he showed us this like color-coded thing, we were like, oh, holy shit. This is gonna fucking fuck shit up. And it did. Like my buddy Ptolemy had the biggest TV, so we like would haul it into the trunk of a cab to bring it to the UCB theater, and we ran it on tapes with like from Canon shooting, and we'd run the tapes into the theater, and we started grabbing people from the audience and yanking them out and grabbing different things and getting people to guest or just letting the homeless population at the time participate as they wanted to, but filming us running around New York and in between cabs and, popping into restaurants that everyone recognized was right on the corner, and all these restaurants feeling like it was cool that we got to utilize, that they were being advertised or whatever in the big comedy theater. I just remember the first night we did it, because it would take that 3-minute span, and we learned later on to like stall or couch that 3-minute span by doing more things in the theater. But at the time we just came up with this crazy logo, and we just let it play for 3 minutes, and 3 minutes in a theater is an eternity. And people were like, are they going to make us watch? Because our show slot was 30 minutes long, Oh. And a buzzer goes off. You weren't allowed to go over. I think it was like I think it was actually 25 minutes. And the logo just started spinning, and the audience was like, shit, this weird-ass neutrino group, are they just going to make us watch this turning logo for 3 minutes?
What is this Andy Kaufman shit?
And then the first scene popped up, and it was us outside at a deli around the corner, and the crowd just roared, just exploded. And then they were just laughing and applauding the whole thing. And we don't know. We're outside. So we don't know if it's working. We don't know if it's happening. We're just running on the streets trying to film scenes as fast as possible. And then we run in, and when it's all done, you get to watch the last 6 minutes of it. And so when we all returned into the theater, like the lights are off and the screen is on, but everyone just couldn't believe that we're coming in and sitting down. And that was making them go like, what the hell? And then they watched us watch our last scenes on the screen. and everyone lost their minds. And
that's some meta shit.
Yeah. And it just made people just go like, holy shit. And I was a part of one of the hippest, coolest things happening in the comedy scene in New York City. And we made the cover of Time Out New York. You know, that show brought us to every comedy festival all over the country. That festival, that form, because we would teach it, got me flown to Columbia. I taught in Columbia. My buddy Kurt taught in Germany. Like, it just, we did Edinburgh. We met, and after that, we met with BBC. We met with NBC. We met with ABC. We met with every channel, wanted to be like, this could be anything. And we were like, we agree, this could be anything, which is the weakest pitch in the world. And so no TV show ever happened.
If it can be anything, it can be nothing.
Yes, exactly. And so it never hit any kind of monetary success, but what it did at the time in New York, and like what people thought of it, and to be in that show was something, you know.
Yeah.
Dan Greger, who's was one of our first cameramen, is now, you know, it's Rachel Bloom's husband, and he's like now like a producer of all these things. He's written a ton of movies and produces shows and wrote for, you know, How I Met Your Mother and everything. And he was our camera guy, you know, like it was a really cool. It attracted a lot of absurd talent. It was a really cool time.
Yeah. Still friends, or did you reach out?
I mean, like, you know, Kurt Braunohler is, you know, was the neutrino. He's still doing his thing. And Ptolemy, I don't know what your Brogan's thing
laughing. Yeah, Brogan's laughing at me at Kurt. The time that I met Kurt
did not go well.
No. I was. It was at Hot Tub, and I had a few too many cocktails.
Yeah. That'll happen.
What did you say to Kurt?
It wasn't.
I like this story. Tell it.
I think it was something along the lines of, I know Matt Donnelly.
That does not open a lot of doors. Does not open a lot of doors.
No. And then Kez was like, we listened to the podcast. And of course, Kurt's thinking, I do podcasts. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it wasn't a great time. He wasn't happy to see us.
Neutrino was one of the people, like Bob Wilfong, who was actually Daily Show correspondent for a little while. Kurt Braunohler, Ptolemy, who I just mentioned, was in a bunch of movies and stuff, Westworld and all that stuff.
Westworld.
Jess Allen, who writes on a bunch of TV shows, Night Court and things like that. And Rebecca Johnson, who did Glow and was my best man at my wedding and that kind of stuff. And so, it was a really cool collection of people. Even my buddy Steve Buck, who did a bunch of movies and just hung it up and wanted to be a teacher, you know.
Yeah.
But it was a great amount of talent. And I'd been on an improv group from college, and we still, you know, those people are still some of my closest friends. I always said, like, we believed in like group mind, and we really did have like a group mind. We could see the space the same and attack the stage and share a mind, and it was really so cool to create that way. But Neutrino, I said it was a bunch of sled dogs of alpha dogs, and we're all like stuck on these chains with each other, but we all yank and pull in different directions. Yeah, and that's what it always felt like to create with Neutrino, and I loved it. It was a totally different environment, but it was such a fun time. So yeah, I think that probably is one of the coolest things I got to be a part of.
I have a huge amount of respect for you doing improv, because improv is hard. Improv is really hard.
Improv is hard, but that's what draws you to it. I mean, for people like me, and there's a lot of people like me who are obsessed with it, and that's actually like why I'm so thankful I found magic, is because I actually had, you know, sucked the marrow of my obsession of improv, and it was down to nothing. You know, there's really nothing functional for me to explore with improv. That all of a sudden magic opened up this new world, and I didn't realize how much my brain needs to be obsessed with something to kind of be functional, and so switching to magic was great. But improv, I always say the drug of it is not being funny on the spot. The drug of improv is being consistently funny on the spot. That's what you're chasing, is like I can always show up and be funny without planning it. Like that's sounds so arrogant to say, and yet that's what we're all secretly chasing, you know. Yeah.
See, I like improv in the sense I don't think performing improv is of any interest, but I like to do things that just like improvised at the moment with like friends and things like that.
Well, that's really what makes it so attractive, is that I think when you're being funny in improv, it feels like that. It feels like you're being funny with your friends. And that's why Ice Cream Social exists, was I was like, I'm having kids. Yeah. I can't go out and do improv every night of the week like I did in New York, and even like doing a lot of nights, like, is it sitter worthy? Like, is it worth paying, $50, $60, $70 just to make up jokes with my friends?
Yeah.
So I was like, but I can joke around with Paul at whatever hours we choose, and I get to do bits and do funny things with him. I miss doing the amount of shows we used to do, even just doing monthly shows. I feel like our show improves. I feel like Ice Cream Social Podcast improves when we do live shows together. Yeah. I feel like that playfulness residue stays on us a little longer, and I feel like through the pandemic we lost a lot of that. And so while we're still funny, I think we're playing less characters and doing less running bits, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so I feel like we've had like real pep at our steps since episode 1000, since we did that live show in Pittsburgh. I feel like our season 2, quote unquote, has been off with a bang. I've been really enjoying our podcasts. I think that was a big shot in the arm. Getting together and being funny for that long in person helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the season 2 Ice Cream Social music theme?
I thought it was going to be a bit for 2 episodes, but now I guess it's Jacob's du jour. So because of it, I think I'm getting better at using it. Now that it's past its bit period and now it's just part of it. Yep. I have to be okay with it. For me personally,
me every time it plays.
It throws me too. I mean, I chose the theme music, so I definitely, when it's not the music I chose, take that microphone.
Microphone abuse.
I like the surf rock version for a reason, but but I'll ride with it. People did good work on it. I can't knock it. So I don't know how often we'll keep using those new versions, but we'll see.
Good. Good.
Not that we don't like it.
I understood the subtext you were laying down when you laid it down.
Yeah.
It's just I'm not in charge of it.
Yeah. How looking back on the Twitch bucket show, do you see that? How do you see that as look? Do you think it's more of a success or something that could have bloomed into something more?
I think it was an artistic success. It just lacked the monetization that it could have been. Yeah. We didn't know what Amazon subscribe money would be and that kind of stuff. But having Brent McKay as a warm up guy, making it feel like an event happening for the net, really kind of making the improv show shaped towards the audience, not just they get to watch an improv show, which is why I don't enjoy. Yeah. People would say, "Are you going to Twitch the bucket show when Paul and I get together and do a live show?" And I'm like, it's not the same. Being able to observe a live event versus actually being online and having entertainment geared towards you is different. So I loved it. I loved what we were trying to do. I love the balance we have with studio audience and people watching at home. If it paid anything, it would have been so fun and so successful. But at the end, it was just a bunch of people donating their time, and that's just going to burn out. Yeah. Like so many other endeavors, that's just there's so many times where you just try things. There's a new format, right? Like TikTok came around, people who never became famous became TikTok famous, right? Yeah. There's that time you have to find out whether you're magical or not. We could have been Twitch celebrities. We could have been the next big Twitch thing. We didn't know. We could try. Maybe it might have been it. Yeah. I thought we did a much better job putting it forward than other people who tried improv on Twitch. I thought we did cooler things. I thought we had a cooler set.
To be fair, I don't know of any other improv on Twitch. I haven't heard of any other improv on Twitch. So
yeah, it was just in the last flare in the emergency canon of can I try to do improv for a living, and I think Twitch was that last flare. I think I'm done trying to make money doing improv. I've taken a lot of shots. I've taken more shots. I sound like Trump right now. I've been a lot of shots. More shots than anyone. No,
and yours are the best shots.
No, like my college money when I was 19, trying to do a TV show then. I did a green screen TV pilot, then Drew Carey ended up doing a green screen TV pilot. I could be mad at that, except that his failed also. I did try to improv movie. We did the Neutrino video projects. Pitched that. That brought us to every entertainment office in the English speaking world, and nothing happened. Tried the Tarot Lounge show here in Vegas. Got into Wayne Brady's show. Like I've really, really, really tried to find a way to make Twitch some kind of compelling monetizing thing. And it's not to say like there are groups like there is a Improv Shakespeare is now like a thriving thing where people get paid for their shows and it is a thriving thing that people love. There are other examples of things like that where people picked up on a themed thing. I've always wanted to bring back the neutrino video projects, but not because it's in everyone's pockets and everything like that. It's so possible. When we were doing it was so impossible. Yeah. But I would love to do it during October, and I'd love to do instant Halloween movies. I think make people come out of the audience, make them be zombies, make them be murder victims, and do kind of cool comedy Halloween movies. Is something that I think would work in Vegas, and I think it would help. So I guess I said I was done, and I just told you I'm not done. So I clearly have one more in the chamber that I'm willing to explore.
News.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. But
Matt Donnelly announces new October neutrino video.
One more go.
I think it would work.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm still proud of everything. I love it. I think my relationship to improv is this well explored, nurtured thing. The only regrets I have is I never wrote a book.
There's still time, Matt. There's still time.
Yeah, I gotta write the book. Bull Matador is the name of the scene technique I invented that I taught everywhere. That I learned by doing the neutrino video projects. I like to teach. Yeah. There's a whole improv curriculum that I came up with in New York that I'm still proud of that I would love to publish.
Oh, so it's an improv book, not just like your memoirs of your time in improv.
No, fuck that. But
okay. So I thought it would. If anything, I thought you'd call it the Donnelly Herald.
No, but that would be in the book under a different name.
Yeah.
It would be in there. No. So there's a whole bunch of improv technique and improv form work and stuff like that I'd love to publish that I think the improv world could still use now that I should write. Yeah.
So, and this is not like a magician saying, I came up with this trick. You reckon this is your philosophy on
improv?
I mean,
if anything, like, there's some people that still teach Bull Matador. Sometimes they call me and ask me to give me credit. And I just say, if you give me credit, great, but I'm not teaching right now. So, I'm glad you are. Go for it. The one that got ripped off, like everyone teaches, everybody, like that people have tried to teach it to me. And I was like, bitch, I came up with that. Is history, philosophy, metaphor. Where I teach people to open up their characters by expressing their history, their philosophy, or making a metaphor about their beliefs or wants. And that was too good that it just took off and everybody started teaching it to each other. Yeah. So I guess I should be happy that it's just out in the world and I've improved improv, but I guess sometimes the guy wants credit.
Yeah.
You've made a difference. And
call me a cunt.
If nothing else. Ooh, yeah.
Oh shoot! I broke the only rule.
Oh, that was. I think we have to end it then. If you've said the cunt, yeah. Oh, now I'm saying it. Oh, god damn.
Cunt. Just for
there we go. 3 for 3.
Rule of threes.
Yeah. There's two things that have rule of threes. One of them is comedy, and the other is a Super Mario Brothers boss fight. It's always hit it 3 times and it's dead. Like my fucking head.
Wayne's just hitting everything today.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
So at least, go on.
No, I was gonna say I gotta go soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think we'll wrap up anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least improv artistically is a success for you. So
yeah, absolutely. No, it is my body of work as an improv teacher, and some of my work as a performer is very satisfying, and it feels good to have accomplished those things in my life for sure.
Yeah,
and it's given you a good base for the magic thing.
Oh yeah, it's my superpower among magicians for sure.
Yeah, it's a leg up. I feel like you've got something that most other magicians don't have.
No, I did a show the other night, and it went very well, and it was very all over the place. And I was messing with everybody, and it was so improv based. And the owner of the magic venue immediately, like as soon as the show was over, and it was like, great. So when you come back, we'll have to do whatever. And just instantly, it was like the fastest I've been invited back to play a magic venue, and I was like, oh, this is great. But I wanted to go a little off the rails.
Did the t-shirt cannon trick Did that go on this tour? Or?
Yes, it did. It did.
It did. How did it go? Can I ask that?
Very well.
Good.
At first, not well at all, but then very well. It improved as the tour went on. But no, it's going to be something. I hope it's going to be when you come see me at Foolers Live, foolerslive.com. Sign up, get on the list. When you come see the Foolers tour, I think you'll see it in the show. That's the goal.
Good. Yeah.
I think it's going to be in the show. Because I had a card stab routine in there, and it felt small in those big theaters. And the T-shirt cannon trick is a big trick.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be good.
So how much research and development was put into this? Because, I mean, you thinking of Penn and Teller, Piff the Magic Dragon, the amount of time and money that they will sink into a trick to get it to work?
I think this is on par with that.
Really?
I think I've been thinking about it since season 5 of Fool Us. So
yeah,
it's been in my brain for that long. I've debated on numerous episodes of Abracababble with different people. Yeah. I've tried different versions. I was using a prop that Ryer Applethorne built for me years ago. He's now rebuilding for me. So that's research and development there. I had to get a different prop built for it. Something that's supposed to look normal that isn't normal. And so that got built for it. That's expensive. Yeah. And then it costs at least a T-shirt to do.
Yeah.
Each time I do it.
Yeah.
It's the most expensive R&D trick I've done.
Yeah. So more expensive than a pack of baseball cards.
Yes.
More expensive than the poster board. Well, those fish, they must add up.
The fish do add up. And yet, when I see them for sale, I buy them.
How many have you got now?
Oh, I've got like 8 in my garage.
Oh, Jesus, you had
but
4
but I'm up to using 4 a show.
Good.
Yeah.
At least you're using them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think my wife even knows how much they are. Otherwise, she'd be like, what?
You found them in the attic, Matt. You found them in the attic.
And the guy who makes them is in Russia. I don't know if I can even buy them from him anymore.
Oh, no.
Ryer, we need you to learn to make fish.
Ryer's been doing prototypes of different types of fish for me for a long time, too. We've been looking at all kinds of fish. Yeah.
Of course he has.
The war is affecting stateside.
It is.
It's terrible.
It's affecting my act.
Yeah.
Rude.
So anybody who can, because me and Brogan can't, foolerslive.com, sign up and go see the show, because you'd be able to hold that over us. You'd be like, guess what, Brogan? Guess what, Wayne?
Yeah.
We got to see Foolers Live. We got to see a T-shirt cannon magic trick, and it was great.
Yeah. Do it, and then you can, on the social media, be like, when are you coming to? And just put your country or your town or whatever. Just do it that way. Start the demand.
Exactly. When are you coming to the Perth Comedy Festival?
Exactly.
Well, thank you for coming on to our 100th episode, which we only mentioned at the top of the show and never again.
All right, 100. We did it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for having me and making me 100. Makes me feel special. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on and spending time with us. We love and support you.
Well, I love and support you too. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, you have to. You're our podcast dad, so...
That's right.
Fatherly support.
I'm not going out for a pack of smokes. I'm still here. I'm right here.
Yeah. What? Oh, you could turn that into a magic trick, though. If you disappear for 10 years and then reappear. That would be a pretty good reappearance.
All right. I'll run up on my kids. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, cool. The professional way to do this would be to say, hey, Matt, where can people find you on social media? Even though we know it all.
At Mind Noodler on Instagram, and I'm at Sweet Matty D on Twitter or whatever it's called now.
Yep, X and all that. Yeah. Are you on Threads? Are you on Threads at all?
No, I'm not going to replace Twitter with anything. If Twitter goes away,
no one's on Threads.
I'm just going to let it go away.
It's just me.
I don't want more social media. I want less social media in my life.
Yeah. But if you are interested in if you don't know what Ice Cream Social is, Matt and Mangley's Ice Cream Social, check that out as well. If you're interested in magic, check out Mind Noodler. You got a Patreon still as well. Patreon.com/Mind Noodler.
Yep. That's the one.
Cool. Yeah. Check that out.
Check it out.
But you can also follow us on all the social medias, including Threads, at NicePodBud. Everywhere social media exists, that's what we're known as. And you can find Brogan and talk to them directly as well. What's that?
That's a good handle. NicePodBud is a good one. That's nice.
Oh, good. Yeah. I always worry that it's going to get confused for some sort of marijuana podcast when it's nice pod bud, because you're talking pods and buds and nice.
So get through that.
Yeah.
But when you have Matt and his ice cream social and you're like, we should have a Twitter, you go like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, Hey Scoops sort of came out of
it was.
nowhere. Yeah.
That was the solve.
Oh, there you go. There's another @ for you, @Hey Scoops on social medias.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can talk to us directly. Brogan is @7billion needles. That's the number 7 and the words billion and needles.
And Wayne is @Wayne Geo.
But yeah, thanks again, Matt, for stopping by, and thanks for stopping by and having a listen.
You got it.
As always, stay fresh, cheese bags.